Welcome to another episode of Business Highlight. My name is Pedro, and today I have the pleasure of having with me Monika Amar, the owner of Boca Event Planning. Monika, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Like I told you off the air, and I was like, man, who should I talk to this week? And then you just came to my mind, like Monika is the right person to talk to this week, especially since with events and planning, and that's obviously the name of your company. But thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited to have this opportunity.
Yeah. So just let's start off. Tell us a little about yourself, your background, and things like that.
Okay, cool. So I grew up in Boca Raton. I'm the owner of Boca Event Planning. So my base is here. I went through elementary school to high school down here in Boca and went away to college at Florida State. And I came back and I've worked in Boca and Del Rey and the events and marketing industries ever since then. And my company, I opened it in 2018. So we've been around for about 2 years now, but blossoming and growing. And obviously COVID has been a little bit of a detour in that growth, but we're excited and looking forward to events in 2021 and moving forward this year, even with a few.
Right. COVID is just like we were talking off the air and just said how COVID changed everything for a lot of people, and now these 2020 events, weddings, or even just regular events are now postponed to 2021. And so it's just a lot of moving parts. But you said you opened your company in 2018. Why did you decide to open it up, and how did that come about?
Well, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and I've always loved events. I actually studied international affairs and then ended up in the realm of PR and marketing, and doing events for clients actually kind of inspired me to continue my passion with events specifically. So friends and family started asking me left and right to help them plan their events or their weddings. And it really kind of grew from there. And when I got my first official client, I was like, oh, well, I kind of have to establish myself as a business versus just kind of helping here and there. It became a company and it's grown. And I'm so excited for what the future brings. And, this is what makes my heart beat. So I'm really happy to be doing it.
Yeah, guys, again, we're talking to Monika Amar, the owner of Boca Event Planning. If you want to contact her for your events, I don't know if you want to do them in 2020 or 2021, but her email is contact@bocaeventplanning.com, or you can check out her website at bocaeventplanning.com. You see it in the bottom of your screen. Monika, so a lot of people might say it's kind of like, how the saying goes, if you have a blog, you're a writer. So a lot of people might think that, oh, I can make my own events, so I can be an event planner. But I don't think it works that way. How did you receive your training for for becoming an event/wedding planner? I'm sure there was training. I don't think you just out of the blue decided to do it.
Well, obviously through experience, you get a lot of training, and every event and wedding that you do, you learn every time. But I've been very fortunate to receive different certifications, one of which is I'm a certified special events professional. And that's through the International Live Events Association. So it's a major, obviously, international association of event planners of every type. So corporate, private, public, weddings, we all kind of have this platform to communicate and have a landing page for answering questions and kind of learning what the latest tips and technologies are in the industry. So to receive this particular certification, it was a 3-year process and a long and rigorous exam, which I swore that I failed, but I passed and I became a CSEP, which is, like I said, a certified special events professional. And it's really, that was my first official certification in the industry, and having those letters after my name, it just means a lot to me to know that I'm qualified to plan events of around the spectrum, small to large, of any scale, of any type. And then I have a second certification, which I received about 1.5 years ago. It's through the Bridal Society, and I'm a certified wedding professional. So you go through a training process with that organization, and you learn soup to nuts, everything about weddings. And even if you've done weddings before, there are things that you don't know. You learn about the etiquette, you learn about insurance, you learn about the legalities of things, and how to deal with vendors, how to really establish yourself as a business in the wedding industry. And that's been also an incredible experience. We're part of like a forum online, and anytime I have a question from a bride or just a question myself, just based on the industry, there's a platform of, I think, 5,000 planners throughout the country throughout the world, who, you can reach out to and get answers and get advice. And it's, you're never really alone. So in working with me, you also are working with these thousands of professionals who, at any point in time, if you have a question, we can get an answer for you. And it's a really, really valuable group to be part of.
Yeah. You've mentioned a little bit of weddings, but, what other type of events have you and your company planned since you guys opened up?
Yes. So we plan everything really. In my experience, over 100 events at this point, and everything from festivals, different special events, to private parties, birthdays, anniversaries, bachelorette parties.
You have event planning for bachelorette parties?
Yeah, some people. And parades. I've planned some of the city parades here in Boca Raton, and our festivals here as well. So I'm really lucky to have a really wide range of repertoire for the events that I have planned.
So you've done many events. I know it's going to be difficult to answer this question, but has there been one, like a favorite event that you've done? Obviously, every event is your favorite, but like if you had to pick one, was there one specific event that was like one of like, wow, that one was my favorite to do so far?
Maybe not favorite, but I think most challenging and most rewarding to get through was my very last wedding right before COVID. We had it at just on the cusp of when we were closing down. It was a wedding, full planning for the Addison. It was a bride and groom, and the backstory there is kind of interesting. I had met them at another venue. They were exploring the venue, and they bumped into me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm the day of coordinator here." And they ended up taking my business card, and about a year later, I hear from them again, and they're like, "Oh, we decided to have our wedding at the Addison. We'd love to have you as our planner." And for me, that was a shock and an honor to even be recognized and remembered after an entire year. And the Addison has an incredible list of vendors that they offer to each of their clients. So for them to seek me out versus using, whatever list the Addison has, it was a surprise and an honor. So I joined in with them and a few months before the wedding, and I kind of tied up all the loose ends, and then COVID hit. And this wedding was 3.14, so March 14th, Pi Day. And we ended up having a lot of cancellations, a lot of guests who either couldn't travel from overseas or dropped out last minute. We were shifting around the guest list up until that morning.
Wow.
And very fortunately, I have really incredible vendors that I work with. For instance, I had a designer from Not For Hire, and she did a hand calligraphy seating chart, and she waited until that morning to finish it because she knew people were still dropping out of the guest list, and we were making changes. So she delivered it. I think the ceremony started at 5, and because we had made so many changes and we wanted it to be perfect, she dropped it off at 5:30, right before cocktail hour. So it was pretty incredible. And after the fact, the bride and the bride's mother and the groom, they were so grateful that I kind of helped them through the entire process. We wavered with the decision of, should we cancel? Should we postpone? Is this the right decision? Are we putting people at risk? And it was up to the guests to make that decision if they wanted to come or not. We had gloves, and people wore masks if they wanted to, but like I said, it was very early on. So it kind of was the last hurrah before we are what we're in now.
Yeah.
It was really fulfilling to be able to do that for them and to make it happen and to have it be like a magical night when there was so much chaos going on in the world.
Yeah. You touched a little bit on the wedding planning part, but what kind of levels of the planning process do you offer? And if some people are listening right now and they're thinking about, wedding planning or even just event planning? Like, what are some of the types of levels you offer?
So I offer kind of every tier that there could be. So I could do full planning. So from conceptualization to implementation, full planning alongside you, or even just taking on the entire project. Then there's like a partial moderate planning that I could do. So basically we work hand in hand to make things happen. And then I have a month of package where this is mainly for weddings. So a month before, I'll come in and kind of take on all your vendors and coordinate the timeline and make sure that all the loose ends and everything is all perfect. And then actually being there day of to make sure all the vendors are doing what they need to be doing, setting up all the decor as you'd like it, and kind of just being there, being your right hand and any beck and call that you might have. And then for some events, not necessarily weddings, because I do want to get to know your vendors and I want to get to know you. But for some events, I do offer day of planning or day of coordination. So just being on site and being that liaison so that you don't have to worry about, what vendors are doing or, anything behind the scenes, any errors that might happen, any slip ups. That's kind of where I would take that on and ease anyone's stress on that day.
Right. That's a lot of things you offer, guys. If you're interested in anything in any of her services, her website is just bocaeventplanning.com, or you can reach out to her via email at contact@bocaeventplanning.com. I think like every question is just ties in together, but what kind of throughout the this COVID craziness, what has been some of the changes that you've seen in the industry, and things that you think are going to end up becoming quote unquote normal from now on?
So it's hard to say because we're not through it yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, from day one of being in COVID, because this is my career, literally in my entire life is events, I have followed along in a lot of the industry, like webinars and chats, and gotten on Zoom calls and really kind of brainstormed with professionals to see like what direction we're going to head in. And there have been a lot of like ILEA, the International Live Events Association, there's been a lot of publications that have come out and said, this is this is how we're going to plan events from now on. And these are the accommodations we're going to make and the changes we're going to make. But really, I haven't particularly had an in-person event since COVID struck. So this will be something that obviously we're brainstorming for, but some of the things discussed are more virtual components being offered. So especially for conferences and any kind of corporate events, there's going to be, so attendees who would naturally attend in person could also have the option to attend online. Also for events of that scale, like a larger scale, if you have like 1,000 people, there would also be an offer to have smaller satellite events. So versus everyone in one auditorium, there would be a lot more offerings for smaller satellite events throughout a week-long conference. Things would be much more spread out. As far as like all events, I guess, if there's a buffet option, I think that that's being reconsidered, just to kind of avoid everyone touching the same things. There have been talks of, okay, you could still have a buffet, but you would have a server behind each station serving you. So you kind of get that same feel versus like a plated dinner.
Right.
And then I know that like for weddings, for instance, we're going to be definitely having less seats per table. So usually we try to squeeze as many people at a table as possible. If you can fit a charger and their cutlery, like they're going to sit there. But I think that we're going to be having a lot more spacing. So social distancing, a little bit of that on tables for any sort of reception style event. And I think that obviously sanitization is one major component that's going to be added. So obviously, we clean bathrooms and we clean areas of events as the event is happening, but I think this will just be heightened. We'll offer hand sanitizing stations, and so we'll encourage that. And one interesting thing I saw recently, just like browsing the internet, I saw these bracelets that when you enter an event, there are green, yellow, and red bracelets. And so if somebody's wearing a green bracelet, So this would be kind of for a wedding, maybe.
Right.
Somebody was wearing a green bracelet that says like open to hugs and I'm not social distancing. Yellow is I'm open to talking and having a conversation, but we're not physically touching. And then red is like stop if I'm wearing this bracelet. And
Wow.
basically they're just there to experience the event, and they don't want to be approached by anyone. So it's a really interesting thought.
Way. Yeah.
It's as simple as like a little bracelet that you could have your guests have, and just to know that you're not going to cross those boundaries of what people are comfortable with. I think that might be something that I really encourage some of my clients to pursue.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the effects of COVID in the event planning world in 2020. If so, let's say some of your clients come up to you and talk to us. Hey, listen, what do you think we should do? Like maybe their wedding is in August or September or October.
Mm-hmm.
Back in March, we probably would say, yeah, you know what, we'll keep it that way because I think by August we're gonna be fine. But now we're in July 3rd, and it's kind of like, is it gonna be fine? And so, like, what is some advice that you'd give, couples or even people wanting to do events throughout the rest of the year?
I would say, because I have not particularly advised on canceling events, let's say from November, December time.
Mm-hmm.
September is still kind of iffy, October even. But I would say just make sure that if you have to postpone, that for one, you kind of communicate with your vendors a little bit in advance of even making that decision to kind of see, could I do this? And could I change the date to 2021 or 2022? And if I did, what would that look like as far as our partnership? So based on like your contract, maybe some terms in the contract might say, okay, you pay a fee for postponement or a date change. Right. So I definitely think that, cover your bases as far as reviewing contracts that you have in place. And then just communicate with your vendors, because you might have some vendors who are flexible and say, I know that my contract says that I have a $200 change fee, but because of the circumstances, I'm willing to waive that fee for you. Yeah. And we can, work together in 2021. So I think that just keeping an open mind and keeping that line of communication open. And, if you are working with a planner, make sure you're communicating with your planner. We're there to ease your mind and kind of help you through even the emotional aspect of things. I think that it's helpful to talk it out and not to just let, what's going on in the world kind of mess with your head and not have anyone to talk to. I think that, thinking through your process, thinking through all the things that would potentially have to change if you did change your date. And then just making sure, like I said, covering your bases as far from a legal standpoint. If you sign contracts, it'll only benefit you to know where you stand.
Yeah, in this post-COVID world, I don't know if you agree. You probably do. I don't know. A lot of things now are going to be like the things that we thought weren't normal are going to be normal. So a lot of people might even decide to, hey, you know what? I don't want to do a big wedding anymore. I want to do like a smaller backyard intimate wedding. Is that stuff, like things like that? Do you see things like that even through this, even through 2020? Do you think that stuff like that could still work?
Oh, for sure. I've seen, all over the internet that people are continuing to have small scale weddings. So I'd say like 10 or less, including bride and groom and like the officiant. And they're offering an option for guests who were supposed to come in person to, attend via Zoom. So then you have like a Zoom setup and you have everyone there. Some events you can't change, and some events, if you have a wedding plan and you have a timeline for your life and you want to get married. The courthouses are still available to get your wedding license. And I mean, it's going to happen one way or another. I think that if you do have to cancel all your vendors, you want to modify them from like a large scale wedding to a smaller scale wedding. Again, look at your contracts and see, or discuss with them and see, like, I know we were supposed to have a 150 person wedding and flowers for that many, but how do we adjust what we're doing to fit the new scale of my wedding or my event? And the virtual component is very, very helpful for continuing these events through the end of the year. There's still so much up in the air until 2021. I think that, people are kind of giving the green light on what's going to happen in 2021. My own wedding is in 2021.
Yeah.
So I hope this is over very soon. But yeah, I mean, if you want to have your event or wedding, people like me, we can make it happen. We can coordinate vendors. We can, have something on the beach, have something small in a backyard. It's happening. It's happening all over the world.
Yeah. Again, if you guys are interested in talking more with Monika, her email is contact@bocaeventplanning.com, or her website is just www.bocaeventplanning.com. Switching gears a little bit from all this like sad COVID stories, what has been one of your most rewarding, fun parts of the job so far?
I think that with every event I've planned, I get to impact someone's life no matter what. I always feel like I make an impact on someone's life, whether it's creating a memory, starting a tradition. So some of the, the annual events that I get to plan, let's say it's a young family's first year attending the event. And then they're going to make a promise to go every year from then on. I think that's exciting to be able to, kind of be take part in starting those traditions for families and helping people make memories. You make an impact in someone's life, and I've had a lot of bride and grooms. I'm so grateful. I've had incredible brides and grooms and grooms and grooms and brides who have reached out and said, like, we could not have done this without you. And that, I mean, like I said, this doesn't feel like a job. This doesn't feel, like a stressful thing for me. This is my passion, and this is what makes my heart beat. So for me to be able to do this for so many people and impact even wedding guests or guests or attendees of an event, impact their lives a little bit or make them happy, that's what makes me happy.
When it comes to weddings in particular, is there like a favorite part of the wedding day that you enjoy the most when you're like planning the wedding?
There's one small moment. It's literally like a minute, less than a minute, when like in a wedding processional, when the last person of the bridal party has gone down the aisle and the bride is about to go down the aisle, and you kind of hold your breath because you're like, this is happening. Like, they're about to get married. Their lives are about to change. And like, you're there, you're in the moment with them. And, I've had that moment alone with some brides. If they're, waiting, they're going to be walking a bit of the aisle and then meeting up with their mom or their dad. And kind of being in that like moment where you're about to take that first step, and then they take that first step and you can kind of breathe and you're like, okay, like this is happening. They're getting married. All of the work is done. Like, and everything kind of flows from there. That's the moment where like the wedding kind of transitions from, we're coordinating everything. We're making sure all the vendors are putting everything in place and everything's perfect. And then now they're going to get married, and then it's party time. It's exciting from there. So that's kind of like the one moment I love.
That's awesome. Guys, again, talking to Monika Amar from Boca Event Planning. If you guys want to check out her things that she's done in the past, her Instagram is just Boca Event Planning, and her Facebook, again, is just Boca Event Planning, but just separate. So you can just check that out if you want. Again, contact her as well. Contact@bocaeventplanning.com, or her website, bocaeventplanning.com. Monika, before I let you go, we were talking a little bit earlier about, where you've how you began this journey. What would be some advice you'd give to somebody that doesn't really know what they want to do yet, not even just when it comes to weddings or event planning, but just in life? They either graduated high school or they graduated college, and they don't really know what to do next. What would be like your one piece of advice to give these people?
Interestingly enough, I think taking a personality test kind of helps. I've known people who are in careers and they're totally off bar, like they're off the path of like what their personality fits into. So for me, I've always been in a very communicative, social atmosphere, and I knew that I wanted to do something with people. So yeah, I that's probably a weird answer, but I think There are plenty of personality tests available online, and that can kind of tell you, oh, you'd be a good doctor, or somebody behind the scenes, or you're a communicator. You should be interacting with people.
Out of all, I've asked this question every time. That was the most different one ever. Usually it's like, just do what you love, or do this. It's like, do a personality quiz. That was awesome. I love it. That was the best one so far. If I'm making a list of my favorite answers, that's number one. Because that makes so much sense. It's like, hey, do what you're good at, and what you like, your personality says you're good at. It's really good. Monika, thank you so much for coming on with us. Had a great time talking with you. Again, guys, Monika Amar from Boca Event Planning. If you want to contact her, contact at bocaeventplanning.com. She's great, and I'm sure she'll help you with all your wedding / event needs you need. Monika, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys. That will wrap up this week's business highlight. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like our page. Thanks again so much, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.